Hello, I'm Dick.
And I'm Eric, and we're the Annuity guys.
Eric, we want to talk about annuities. If they really are the best choice when folks are looking at the high cost of going into retirement. When I say high cost, I don't mean fees and that type of thing, but just the amount of money it takes to retire nowadays.
So yeah, when you're going into retirement, how much money are you going to need? You know,
Right.
You've got all these buckets. You hope we're going to provide, that income source.
Yes.
But is an annuity fit for one of those buckets?
Right, and one of the concerns that a lot of folks, look at is, inflation, and when you start thinking about a 30-year retirement, and you look back at 30 years ago, maybe 300,000 or 400,000 was enough to carry you through retirement, or at least you thought.
You hoped.
Yeah, today that number would easily be $1 million.
At least,
when you go
for
back
most
30
people,
years.
yeah.
And there's just so many common challenges to retirement that a lot of folks aren't thinking about.
Yeah.
So what I was thinking we could do here, is just kind of go through, kind of stimulate the thinking processes of, what do I need to face in retirement, and how might an annuity fit into that?
Right. And I think the first thing you have to start with is planning. Obviously, when it comes to retirement, if you just wing it, your chances of success are going to be a lot slimmer than if you've set out and have a set of expectations and plans. It's going to be a roadmap. It's not going to be perfect. I always tell people when we're doing planning, the first thing I know when we're done here is this plan will be wrong. It's not going to be perfect. But here's the thing. It's the roadmap that provides our guide for what happens, what we're going to do when we get off the rails. So hopefully you've got a core piece put in there.
Yes.
That foundational
Yes.
income, pensions, social
Right.
securities,
Yes.
and annuities that is going to take care of the core. Because
Right.
there are things that are going to happen in retirement.
You have to have flexibility in
Yeah.
that plan, because if you don't have flexibility, then that plan really isn't going to be worth the paper it was written
Right.
on. But like you said, a core, a baseline.
Right, so you have an income core.
Yes.
And then what we like to do is start to think, if you look at all the popular kind of academic studies on retirement income planning, what are you going to do if the market drops? Are you going to reduce your income? Are you going to make adjustments? So what are you going to do if the market's great? Are you going to take dollars and put them in safety? So you have to have some expectations for how you're going to trigger one versus another, or what you're going to do when
Right,
something happens in retirement that you're not expecting.
Eric, on a lighter note, a lot of folks going into retirement are really looking forward to all the time they're going to have on their hands, and it doesn't work that way normally. What do we hear from people?
Oh, I'm busier now than I don't know how I ever had time to work. I'm so busy.
So how can annuities fit into helping with that busyness of retirement?
Well, I have one client, and I laugh because we've got quite a bit of his portfolio in annuities. And I was like, are you sure you want to put this much in? And he goes, Eric, here's the truth. When I retire, I just want you to send me checks. I don't want to worry about investments. I don't want to worry about anything. I want to get checks. And I know that whatever I spend this month, you'll replace next month, because another check just keeps on coming. So from a simplicity, from
Yes.
an activity standpoint, people want to have either, are you going to spend more time making money, or are you going to spend more time spending money?
Well, and each person, you're right, has to cross that road and make that decision, because some people thoroughly enjoy, working with their money in the market and that type of thing. But as the years progress in retirement, you can't always keep up that level. So you've got to have some, alternatives, and also if you should predecease a spouse and you're the one that does all the money management, they need a better way to do it.
Right.
So what are some other challenges?
Well,
we're facing?
and we talked about what are we going to do if you need more money in retirement?
Yes.
How are you going to address that? So, you have additional savings.
Right.
Where because we all have issues that are going to potentially crop up.
Yes, exactly.
Typically, the most common one is healthcare, long-term care. It's you try to anticipate it, you try to prepare for it, but there's no way of knowing what the costs are going to be, especially when you're projecting things down the road 10, 20 potential years.
Right.
How are you going to address it?
Well, a lot of folks enter retirement, Eric, they're just thinking that, hey, I'm retiring, I'm not going to need as much money. But it doesn't always work that way. I mean, right off the bat, a lot of times folks want to do some more traveling. They want to put some more, more hobbies. And one way I heard it described is, when do you spend most of your money when you're working? On Saturday.
Yeah.
When you retire, every day's Saturday.
That's right. I like to tell my clients when you retire, here's the 3 phases of retirement. You've got the go-go years, the slow-go years, and the no-go years.
Yeah, that's a good way.
Guess what? During your go-go years, you're going to probably need to spend more money to be able
Yes.
to enjoy and do the things you want.
Right.
Now, in your the slow go and no-go years, unfortunately, those dollars may shift to health care or long-term care,
Exactly.
but it's being prepared to spend what you need at the time you need it.
Right. A lot of folks in the early 2000s, Eric, had a plan of just using the interest off of their savings and passing all the money on to the kids. And there was nothing wrong with that.
Yeah.
It was a good plan, but up to the point where interest rates have dropped.
Yeah, the Fed quit cooperating with their plans.
You can't hardly live off of 0.5% at the bank or 1%. But this is another place where annuities shine because they always historically outpace banks in terms of banking instruments for interest. So you might make, I mean, I know it sounds crazy, but you might make 300 to 600% more interest, which equates to an extra 2 or 3% many times.
But the biggest challenge we have here is not just what you're earning on those dollars; it's what you have to spend. Obviously, we're all painful to say, "Oh, the interest rates are 1-2%." The problem gets to be you need to spend 4, 5, 6% of your asset base to be able to meet your income expectations.
Right.
And so when interest rates don't keep pace with what you need to spend,
You're eating up.
you either have to have saved a whole lot more,
Right.
or you spend a whole lot less if you're going to use that
Right.
strategy.
Right. And that's where, annuities, especially, when you set them up for income, strictly for income, can make a difference there. You're never going to run out of money, but if you just want to live off of interest, the annuities typically pay better than the banks.
Yeah.
Another thing that folks have, coming into retirement, many times have got their 401k and it's been in the market, it's done well.
They trust the market.
Yeah.
It started when they were 20, and now look at it today.
Exactly, and it's had this average earning of whatever, But what folks don't factor into that is that reverse sequence of returns. And so if they start into retirement and not too long into retirement, things start to drop rapidly. Now they're spending their assets way faster than they thought to keep that income level up. And, again, this is a place where annuities, either for income or for just protecting a reasonable rate of growth, can really shine.
And this is where we talk about, we don't think annuities is the answer for 100% of your dollars.
Right.
But the biggest threat to somebody in retirement is retiring at the wrong time. And how do you know when it's the wrong time? You don't until after you've done it.
Yeah.
And so the problem is, how do you offset that sequence of returns risk, that you retire at the wrong time? Well, the way you offset it is by having a core set of safe dollars that are going to provide your income, and that's where we keep harping here on foundational income, but Social Security, annuities, pensions, safe dollars that you can count on that are going to be that core. So no matter what happens with the market, your core is protected.
Right. Another thing we often hear is, should I consider annuities or stocks or rental properties? And it's a valid question, especially when you're comparing rental properties to annuities, that type of thing. Rental properties tend to earn a little more.
They pay at least a competitive amount typically versus what an annuity's paying.
Right.
The people that I typically have that conversation with, though, are usually sorry, I'm not being gender unspecific here, but are the guys that can fix up the homes, do the maintenance, take care of the home maintenance aspect. They don't have to worry about paying somebody else to take care of it.
Right.
My one challenge for most of my retirees that are using that as a strategy is the frailty risk.
Right.
What happens when you get to the point where you can no longer do that? Do you take on a partner? Then you all of a sudden pay a management company to take on those expenses?
Yes.
It's a really good thing to do for a portion of typically thing, but it's diversification.
Right.
If you put all your retirement into property,
Right.
it's like anything
Well,
else.
and even keeping it all straight, as you get up in years and your mind isn't quite as sharp as it was when you were younger, and you've got the collections and you've got the phone calls, you've got to rent the properties and just keeping all that straight. So there comes a point where you have to have an exit strategy or the right relative or whatever that's going to take over, and that's where annuities can kind of become that set it and get it. Set it and forget it. Set it and get it. Set it and forget it type of a scenario.
Yeah. One of the biggest concerns that, and we've talked a little bit about healthcare, long-term care, but it's usually that phase right afterwards when someone passes. And, we've looked at usually 2 income families where we've got 2 Social Security benefits many of the times coming in. And then what happens when we lose one? How does the budget accommodate? Does that dollars, those dollars that go away just automatically, oh, I can live with what's left? How do you, take care of that? And usually a lot of times we'll see people that have put something in place, either a life insurance policy or some sort of annuity that says, hey, when these dollars go away, we're going to replace them with this bucket. And it's having that strategy in place before those dollars go away.
Exactly.
Really
and you never know when that time's going to come, Eric, when someone's, unexpectedly, widowed. So you really have to have this contingency plan, this plan A and this plan B, because you really don't want to have to reduce your standard of living dramatically because you lost a spouse. So you have to have some realistic plan that's ready to go on that.
Yeah, and I think, of course, the biggest thing that annuities address, and it's longevity risk. We've all talked about the fact that, the one thing an annuity does that no other product does is can provide lifetime income. And when it comes to looking at that as being a portion of the retirement plan, that's why it becomes valuable. If you look at it as a bond alternative, it's a bond that never runs out of payment streams.
Exactly.
And that's where I think it comes into play as part of the plan.
Right, exactly. So, Eric, when we talk about, we just listed about, 10 or 11, different challenges in retirement. Are annuities at least one good way to address some of these needs?
It's the key. For me, it's an annuity is going to focus on the piece where you need the guarantees, and that's where I think it addresses the concerns.
Right. I agree.